Well, Project Veritas strikes again. This time they released a tape of an ABC News anchor named Amy Robach complaining that 3 years ago she had the Jeffrey Epstein story, but the network spiked it.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton. We had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. And I had it all 3 years ago.
Now, after the Project Veritas tape dropped, both ABC and Robach quickly issued statements saying that, well, when we had all that stuff, it didn't reach our lofty journalistic standards, and therefore we didn't air it. At the time, not all of our reporting met our standards to air, but we have never stopped investigating the story. Ever since, we've had a team on this investigation and substantial resources dedicated to it. That work has led to a 2-hour documentary and a 6-part podcast that will air in the new year. End of quote. What about Ms. Robach? As a journalist, as the Epstein story continued to unfold last summer, I was caught in a private moment of frustration. I was upset that an important interview I had conducted with Virginia Roberts didn't air because we could not obtain sufficient corroborating evidence to meet ABC's editorial standards about her allegations, end of quote. Note that Ms. Robach was upset that she didn't get the scoop, as opposed to being upset that Jeffrey Epstein was able to continue doing what he was doing for at least 3 more years. As to ABC's lofty journalistic standards, where were those standards when it came to, I don't know, Brett Kavanaugh?
The growing questions this morning over that new report about Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. New sexual misconduct allegations when he was a college freshman.
As to the Robach tape, the plot thickens. ABC contacted CBS, where the alleged leaker now works, and informed CBS that they had somebody who leaked a tape when she worked here at ABC. CBS fired her, but did they fire the right person?
I wasn't in the control room, but I was watching the comments while I was at my desk, and I had seen what she was saying, and I went to my manager and I said, do you see what she's saying? Does she know that she's on a hot mic? The assistant said to us that Amy knew she was on a mic, and that she knew she was being broadcasted to all the affiliates.
Right, so this is a moment where she's off the air, she's doing taped promos, but she has a mic on and people can see and hear her.
Yeah.
So what made what did you do? You clipped the moment? You sort of marked the moment in the system?
Yeah, I just clipped it off. I essentially marked it in the system and never left the system. We do it all the time.
Was there any intention to embarrass her?
No, not at all.
Or ABC?
No, I would never. The 3 years I've spent at ABC, I've loved my time there. I'm a good employee. I've worked 7 days a week. I loved my job.
Was this the first time you had ever clipped a segment of an anchor off mic?
No, we do it all the time. I'm part of my job is I'm like a video editor. I clip off moments all the time. I put together, funny anchor reels of, them off camera doing funny stuff to use later in the show.
Did you go back and watch it later?
I didn't, no. I didn't think about it after that day.
So was that the last you had to do with that clip?
Yeah, I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything else with that.
You never went back to it?
I never went back to it.
You didn't download it, you didn't email it, you didn't transfer that file in any way?
No, not at all. I didn't touch it after that. It stayed in the system. I hadn't even heard of Project Veritas until this.
And then in the fall, you decided to leave ABC to go where?
To CBS. And I only left purely because CBS had offered me a good contract. And so I left, and I was just really excited to start a new job. And
How many days had you been at CBS?
only 4 days, And I begged, I pleaded, I didn't know what I had done wrong. And I just, I wasn't even given the professional courtesy to defend myself. I didn't know what I'd been accused of. It was, humiliating. It was devastating.
Have you ever spoken to James O'Keefe of Project Veritas?
No, never. I didn't even know who he was until this week.
And hadn't communicated with anybody who works there in any way, shape, or form?
No, yeah, I've never communicated with anyone over there.
What was your reaction when you found out ABC News had called CBS?
Devastated. I mean, it's like I'll never get a job anywhere else.
I got a couple of questions. Why are some people called leakers and other people are called whistleblowers? I have another question. Why is George Stephanopoulos, aka George Clintonopoulos, a chief news anchor for ABC? How did that happen?
We're going to turn now to my interview with the newest candidate for president, billionaire Donald Trump.
Are you kidding me? George Clintonopoulos, the guy who was a top campaign aide to Bill Clinton during his 1992 presidential run, who after Clinton got elected became a top White House staffer. After he joined ABC News, he donated $75,000 to the Clinton Foundation, a fact that he failed to disclose to his listeners. Oh, and by the way, he was a visitor to the mansion of Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein had served time for prostitution. Here's what the Hollywood Reporter said about this. After serving a 13-month sentence and a subsequent year of house arrest in Palm Beach, Florida, Epstein in late 2010 hosted a dinner party in honor of his friend Prince Andrew at his 71st Street mansion in New York. Among the 15 to 20 guests, the New York Post reported at the time, were Katie Couric, Charlie Rose, Woody Allen, Chelsea Handler, and, wait for it, George Stephanopoulos. And this is the guy who helped to set up and orchestrate the so-called Nuts or Sluts campaign against these female accusers of Bill Clinton during the 1992 race. I interviewed Larry Klayman, who represents several of these female accusers of Bill Clinton, and here's what he said about what George Stephanopoulos did during that time.
That Hillary Clinton started what was called the War Room. And the War Room, this is while she was getting ready to ascend, so to speak, as First Lady in the campaign of 1992, which elected her husband. George Stephanopoulos was part of that. James Carville was part of it. And the purpose of the War Room, and Stephanopoulos even did a documentary about it, of course he doesn't want to discuss this, was to destroy any woman that would challenge Bill Clinton.
And Clintonopoulos really defended Governor Clinton's character.
Now, Governor Clinton has a character problem, but I take it that your line of
Clinton has no character
your line
problem.
of counterattack is that it's well. I mean, he has not denied that he has engaged in marital infidelity. He denied a specific
He has said
one.
that he had problems in his marriage.
That's right, and he has talked about the draft, and to some people it's a character problem.
Bill Clinton's passed his character test throughout his life and throughout this campaign.
Now, as mentioned, Clintonopoulos failed to disclose that he had made a $75,000 contribution to the Clinton Foundation. I thought that my contributions were a matter of public record. However, in hindsight, I should have taken the extra step of personally disclosing my donations to my employer and to viewers on air during the recent news stories about the foundation. I apologize. Nor did Mr. Clintonopoulos disclose that he was an attendee at a party thrown at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. Clintonopoulos said, "That dinner was the first and last time I've seen him. I should have done more due diligence. It was a mistake to go." This brings us to the $64,000 question. Or maybe it's a $75,000 question. What role, if any, did George Clintonopoulos play in spiking the Jeffrey Epstein story? I mean, after all, we know that NBC sat on the Harvey Weinstein story. We know that the New York Times got public records that suggest that Elizabeth Warren is not telling the truth when now she says she was fired because she got pregnant. What role did George Clintonopoulos play in sitting on the Jeffrey Epstein story? May I raise another issue? How does somebody like this, George Clintonopoulos, a partisan like this, get a job as chief news anchor for ABC News? It's a joke. Why doesn't Karl Rove have an anchor desk job as chief news anchor for NBC News? Why doesn't Steve Bannon have an anchor job at ABC News as chief political correspondent? It would be that ridiculous. George Clintonopoulos is a partisan. He never should have gotten that job in the first place, and it's an obscenity that he has it.
All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. Damn it, my life has value.
I'm Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. I'll see you next time.